The laughter of my friends echoed around us, sharp and unforgiving, as the weight of their prank left her lifeless on the ground. In that brutal instant, everything shattered, leaving me alone, adrift in a world where cruelty masked itself as humor, and I was complicit. I can still hear the laughter, sharp and jagged, piercing through the silence after their so-called prank. It was supposed to be a joke, just harmless fun, but it wasn't harmless, it was devastating beyond words. She's gone now, and I'm left with an emptiness as silent as her grave. This hollow feeling gnaws at my bones, an absence nothing can fill. Every corner of my mind is haunted by the sheer terror in her eyes, her last panicked heartbeat, as if I could hear it from where I stood, helpless, torn apart. Days blend into a dull, gray blur, while my friends' laughter echoes like a cruel reminder of their joke's true cost. I don't know how to move forward or if I even want to, not without her. But what I do know is this: I'm alone now, completely and utterly alone. The hazy glow from the single lamp painted the room in shades of amber. Strewn cushions and discarded pizza boxes gathered around us like silent spectators. It was supposed to be just another night in, a scene replayed countless weekends, our crew wrapped in laughter, governed by unspoken camaraderie. Emma sat cross-legged on the couch, her laughter a melody over the chatter. Her emerald eyes met mine, shimmering quietly, as if even in this dim light they could see straight through to my thoughts. I leaned back in my chair, pretending to focus on the game controller resting idly on my lap, though my mind buzzed with the hum of whispered plans. You know what this night needs? Jake's voice cut through the soft end, conspiratorial and eager. His words, meant for all, somehow looped a lasso around my attention. Emma shook her head mildly bemused. A scare, a real good one, he continued, a grin crawling across his face like a cat on the prowl. The others nodded, and a ripple of agreement spread. Classic Jake, never one to let a night amble peacefully to its end. The suggestion hung in the air, sparking like flint trying to catch. I tossed the controller onto the couch, its dull thump lost amid their murmured enthusiasm. Something simple, harmless, I chimed in, assuring the cautious part of my brain that kicked up faint warning signals like dust in the light. The plan evolved quickly in whispered exchanges. Flick the lights, play some creepy audio, and let the atmosphere take the rest. Innocent. Harmless. Emma looked over at me again, her eyes twinkling under the low lights. Her trust, blind and beautiful, struck something deep within. A small voice inside me tugged at the edges of my resolve, pleading for caution, for restraint, but the thrill of kindred mischief drowned it out. The living room transformed under our hushed conspiracy. Jake disappeared into the hallway, ready to play his part, while I hovered near the light switch, my finger brushing the cold plastic like a hesitant lover. Emma's laughter rippled through the air once more, a buoyant, life-affirming sound lifting the room's spirits. But beneath, in the whisper-thin space between inhale and exhale, tension unfurled its dark wings. Then, it began. The light snapped off, plunging us into a velvet darkness as artificial growls and whispers beckoned from hidden speakers. A gasp here, a shriek there, the expected chaos ensued. My heart thundered in rhythm with the pulse of adrenaline, every sound bursting with more life in the dark. But then, breaking through the excited tumult, a noise. A heavy thud, alien to the orchestrated clamor. A heartbeat later, Emma's sharp gasp cut through the laughter's fractal pattern, wrenching the room into a sudden, icy silence. My stomach plummeted. Feet shuffled, someone fumbled for the light. As they flicked on, the room blinked back, bleary and unchanged. But Emma lay on the floor, the vibrant glow of mischief in her eyes replaced by something twisted and raw, something that turned my blood to shards of ice. I watched as they giggled, disappearing one by one into the dim maw of the basement, their whispers a kind of electric buzz that seemed completely oblivious to the dark pit it was leading us all into. My pulse drummed heavy in my chest, knuckles white around the red plastic cup in my grip. The beer was warm, unnoticed down my throat, cloaked by the bitterness blooming inside me, the laughter and thrill of the prank a distant haze around my quiet dread. Emma stood on the other side of the room, laughing at something someone said, and I felt a twist low in my stomach. My friends loomed in the basement shadows, ready to leap out at her, but every part of me screamed to halt this. The prank felt jagged and wrong, like glass treading too close to the surface, yet I couldn't summon the courage to stop it. I was trapped in the exhilaration of belonging, yet sick with the weight of an unsayable forewarning. The room seemed to still as Emma finally turned toward the basement door. A positioned, needy voice called out, "Emma, can you grab more drinks?" Her feet hesitated, a slight shift in the air. I saw the hesitation, the flicker in her eyes before she shrugged lightly, starting toward the door. My throat constricted, a wordless plea caught in its rawness, unable to breach past the tightness. Emma opened the door, the air from the basement cool and slightly damp against the skin. She paused, her hand on the latch. In that pause, the whole world seemed to lean forward, the room holding its collective breath. Her first step onto the stair, and though it groaned beneath her weight, the noise wrenching through me, every creak resonating like the ominous thunder of a coming storm. I wished then for someone, anyone, to shatter this idiotic game. It felt like a heartless prelude. The descent continued with slow deliberation. My heartbeat matched her rhythm, thudding anxiously with every footfall. The soft glow of the upstairs light flickered and strained, swallowed entirely by the darker shadows below. The silence swelled, heavy and unforgiving. I leaned forward unconsciously, my breath a knot of tension twisting inside me. As her last step echoed into the depths, I could almost sense the moment she crossed into the blind spot, the threshold where light could no longer reach her, and their poised ambush began its cruel countdown. A tense, quivering anticipation flooded the room, yet I found myself paralyzed by the dreadful certainty that nothing about this would end in laughter. My own breath felt loud to my ears, every second dragging unspared across the inevitable. And yet, cursed by fear and the need to belong, I remained silent, perched on the edge of disaster, the unknown aftermath perched like a vulture overhead, ready to dive. The basement felt like the deepest black hole, swallowing every bit of light. We crouched, barely breathing, hidden like shadows within shadows. I could feel my friends around me, pulses quickened, restrained giggles vibrating through our muted presence. This was it, the climax of our little ruse, where anticipation teetered on the thrilling edge of its own collapse. I strained to hear her footsteps above, each creak stretching the moment taut. The silence was intimate, charged, almost conspiratorial. Emma was up there, oblivious, winding through the labyrinth of her ignorance. We were waiting, predators of our own design. The door groaned open, the faintest hint of light sifting down, and I heard her draw in a sharp breath. She was here. This was real. My heart was a feral beast, hammering wildly against the cage of my ribs. Another step, and another. Her hand grazed the wall, a soft pat searching blindly in the void. Everything paused. The room itself seemed to hold its breath. I could almost feel her fingertips brushing the cold, indifferent metal of the light switch. The hush was absolute, a vacuum capable of swallowing ambition and fear in one silent gulp. Then action. A raw, sudden symphony of chaos erupted. Yells engulfed the darkness. My own voice joined, involuntarily caught in the swell of noise. We leapt, bodies exploding from the void. But Lou was the decisive spark. His flashlight burst to life, a searing glare aimed straight at Emma's face. Her scream. God, that scream. It punched through the air, primal, rending, a visceral note of terror I'd never heard before. Everything else fell away, leaving nothing but that sound, echoed and amplified by the cavernous walls, before it cut off abruptly, replaced by a silence that was vast and empty. In that vacuum, there was a thud, unspeakably heavy, reverberating from the basement floor. Not loud, not at all, but profoundly wrong. It wasn't just a sound. It was a conclusion, a horrifying punctuation to our thoughtless sentence. Time fractured. I couldn't register who moved first, but suddenly we were all crowding around her crumpled form, the radiance of the flashlight now an accusing spotlight. Emma lay still, her face drained of all animation. I shut against the reality we'd unleashed. Emma, I croaked, both a question and a desperate plea. No response. Panic rose, a tidal wave swamping every trace of rational thought. I felt reality slip from my grasp, leaving me alone on the precipice, looking down into a void crafted from our careless hands. That scream, that quiet thud, they clung to me, lodged deep within the spaces that hope and laughter used to occupy, leaving us with nothing but what we couldn't take back. The scream tore through the air, slicing the fabric of the moment into jagged shards as though a bolt of lightning had shattered the room. It jolted against the edges of my awareness, but I remained cocooned in a fog of disbelief, the world cinematically muted around me. I heard it, a plea for an ambulance. Urgent, raw words tumbling from mouths in a surreal chorus. But they crumbled into whispers before they soaked through my stunned shell. Her body lay sprawled on the hardwood floor, limbs splayed in a grotesque parody of rest. Her eyes, usually so full of life, were now wide and fixed, staring into some unseen abyss. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. Her face, frozen in a mask of terror, held me in its thrall, a silent scream echoing perpetually between us. People, shadows in my peripheral vision, moved with frantic desperation, their actions fast and blurred. A hand gripped my shoulder, but I couldn't turn to face it. Voices were raised, their words laced with panic and disbelief, but the sound came to me as though through thick, suffocating fog. Each exhale was an effort, an autopilot reflex struggling against the mechanical thud of my heart, each beat a stubborn drum against the overwhelming silence in my mind. Call 911. My God, someone do something. The words flitted past me, insistent but unreachable. Even as their voices urged me to move, to help, I was rooted in place, a hollow echo of myself, the ringing in my ears drowning out the world. My limbs felt like they belonged to someone else, detached and unresponsive, and my chest tightened painfully, as if the room was collapsing inward. Time stuttered, stretched to the breaking point, each moment interminable. Her hand, so impossibly still, lay palm upward, a fragile comfort denied forever. A tide of something heavy, dark, clawed at my insides, threatening to surge up and engulf me. Reality spun, and the only thing anchoring me was the surreal image of her face, suspended in the chaos. The air in the room shifted, rippling with currents of urgency and helplessness. I heard someone else crying, each sob carving shattered pleas into the night. It should have broken through, should have lit a fire in my veins. Yet all I felt was a creeping numbness, an isolation that stretched beyond the crowded room. I could almost taste the bitterness of my own reluctance, the acrid guilt swirled with the faintest trace of metallic fear. Dimly, I registered the commotion behind me as more bodies stumbled through the door, their shadows merging with the growing pool of distress. And yet I remained, a solitary figure lost amidst the frenzied dance of panicked souls, each desperate for a miracle that I could not fathom. Even as the world vibrated with a frenetic pulse, one truth burned bright and painful. In those agonizingly endless seconds, my silence was a deafening scream, binding me to the horror, never to be undone. The wail of the ambulance siren faded into the distance, leaving only the stark, hollow quietness of the night to confront my rising tide of grief. I stood there, rooted to the spot, as if the grim finality of the scene had seeped into my bones, freezing me in place. Flashing lights painted everything in cold, sterile shades of blue and red, distorting reality into something unrecognizable. Emma's body, once so full of laughter and life, had been wheeled away moments ago, leaving behind a void that seemed to swallow even the air around me. My friends huddled together nearby, their faces pale and eyes wide with disbelief. They whispered in broken voices, a chorus of shattered souls trying to make sense of the senseless. But I couldn't move, couldn't even bring myself to step towards them. The thought of their eyes meeting mine, of having to confront their blameless questions, felt like a tide too strong to withstand. The wind picked up, sharp and unforgiving as it lashed at my skin. Each gust felt like a rebuke, a reminder of the cold reality biting deeper, a reminder of the warmth we'd lost. Deep inside, a cacophony of thoughts and emotions collided chaotically, none resolving into coherence. Vague, formless guilt gnawed at me, echoing louder with each passing heartbeat. Why didn't I see this coming? Could I have stopped it? I forced myself to look down the path Emma had been taken, but all that met my eyes was emptiness where once was her vibrant presence. Memories rushed in unbidden, her laughter, that bright, infectious sound, a sound I now feared I'd never hear again. Each memory cut like a shard of glass, piercing deeper, the shards embedding themselves, making it impossible to breathe without pain. I turned away abruptly, trying to escape the weight pressing down on me, the inescapable truth that hammered at my mind. Instinctively, my feet carried me further from the scene, away from the friends I was abandoning to their shock and heartbreak. My steps were heavy, dragging, as if trudging through a dense fog that obscured not just my path but my very purpose. The sound of my name, called out in desperation, pulled me to a stop. It was familiar, yet it felt distant, detached from reality. I couldn't turn back. Facing them would mean facing my failure, the part of me that wondered if I could have been the one to save her, if only I'd been more present, more aware. Reality was a frigid embrace that held me captive, the night's cruel honesty revealing the depths of my isolation. I was alone, adrift, grappling to comprehend the enormity of what had happened, the enormity of what was lost, and the quiet, creeping knowledge that things could never be the same. The days dragged on in a colorless blur. My phone buzzed endlessly on the countertop, cigarettes piling up in an ashtray beside it, each an unfulfilled promise that I'd answer the next call. My friends' voices crackled through the grating speaker, apologies stumbling over reassurances, but all I heard was the hollow echo of Emma's absence. I wandered aimlessly through my apartment, shadows lengthening across the floors like reminders cast by the setting sun of everything I'd lost. Every corner of the place whispered her name. In the kitchen, her favorite coffee mug sat dismally among the other remnants of breakfast. Half-read books and forgotten scarves decorated the living room, frozen in time, capturing the fragmentary moments of a life we had pressed closely together without thinking they could ever fall apart. Her laughter lingered in the walls, mocking the silence that enveloped me. As I passed through the rooms, I couldn't escape the taunting, ephemeral presence of something I'd always taken for granted, her lightness, the easy rhythm of her steps, the way she balanced my chaos with her calm. I counted each haunting reminder like rosary beads, each one weighing heavier than the last. Each step I took felt off balance, stumbling over the rhythmic absence of her beside me. The quiet clattering of my movements only accentuated the unbearable stillness. I stopped by the window where the evenings used to stretch languidly into laughter and shared plans. Now, it was just glass, holding back the tangible world, separating me from it. I pressed my forehead to the cool window, closing my eyes. Traffic pulsed faintly in the world below, a distant murmur. It was almost comforting, like a heartbeat far removed from my own erratic thumping, an external proof that time indeed carried on. But here, locked in this tomb of memories, my guilt thickened. Each day was an amplification, a reminder that I'd been left behind, with only the echoes of my failings to keep me company. Her things lay scattered, untouched. I couldn't bear the thought of pawing through them, inviting the reality of her absence to settle deeper into my bones. Each an open drawer and packed suitcase was a vulnerability I refused to expose, a certainty that I'd shatter under the weight of it if I dared. My reality now was a dichotomy of longing and avoidance. The world outside my door felt distant, each moment within these confines a loop, unending and unforgiving. The emptiness stared back at me, echoing the questions that reverberated cruelly in my mind. How do you move forward without the heartbeat that guides you? I questioned the answer in the silence, let it fill the space between the vibrations of my phone, a sound I could not yet face. The night wrapped itself around me like a wet, suffocating cloak. I gripped the cold railing of the stairs descending into the basement, its metallic chill biting my skin, a reminder that flesh and steel weren't so unalike when touching your bones. My heart pounded, each beat like a heavy knock against a condemned door. I wanted to turn back, to pretend the stairs led nowhere, but the echo of Emma's terror drew me down. Her cries had etched themselves into the very foundation of this place. The wooden steps creaked under my weight, groaning as if burdened by the secrets they held. Each step felt like sinking deeper into the earth, away from light and redemption. Shadows clung to the rough walls, their whispers louder than my own racing thoughts. The air was thick with an unbearable staleness, redolent of old earth and missed promises, and I had to force myself to breathe through the tightness gripping my chest. At the foot of the stairs, the door stood ajar, barely an outline against the darkness beyond. I pushed it open, the noise loud in the silence, like scraping nails on a chalkboard. Inside, the room stretched open, formless, shapeless, an abyss contained within cement and whispers. It was all just as I'd left it, a shrine to despair. I stepped inside, feeling the cold concrete seep through the soles of my shoes. The room was devoid of light, but not memory. I could almost see her there, caught in that moment, her wide eyes begging for mercy as walls closed in on her. Emma, I murmured, but the name died in the void. Here, words didn't belong. Here was only silence, oppressive and absolute, reminding me of everything I'd lost. My hands trembled as I reached for the switch, bathing the basement in an anemic glow. It only made things worse, casting stark shadows that mocked the futile hope of redemption. The dim light fell on the chair, a throne of regrets, its chip paint bearing witness to an unholy past. I sank to my knees, cold cement pressing hard against me, grounding me in discomfort. God, I'm so sorry. The words spilled out broken and raw, caged within walls that provided no mercy. There was no reply, only the taunting embrace of those four walls. I pressed my palms flat against the floor, feeling the cold seep in, like I could draw the sorrow out by sheer will. The shadows seemed to close in, the room shrinking around me. I closed my eyes, willing Emma's voice to return, praying for her forgiveness I couldn't grant myself. I longed for the impossible, for the past to unspool and rewind, to action and then inaction, to a place of pause before everything turned to dust. Yet here I remained, the truth tangible, echoing off these walls, each heartbeat a reminder, each breath a testament to what could not be undone. The streetlights cast a dim glow over the cobblestones, and my footsteps echoed hollowly in the muted night. I found myself, once again, wandering into the old square where we used to linger, hand in hand, each corner whispering secrets of a time that felt like it belonged to another life. The cafe stood there, just as it always had, its windows foggy with the breath of the people inside, yet it felt different now, a ghostly facade of cheer against my solitude. I paused at the entrance, my pulse quickening, battling the urge to step inside. Before, entering this space was like opening the door to another realm where everything made sense. We would sit at our usual table by the window, Emma's laughter framing the world so beautifully through those glass panes. But now, there wasn't even a shadow beside me, just the stark outline of what used to be. Walking past the cafe where we'd share secrets was like stepping through a mirage of joy, only to be brushed away by the chilling reality of an empty seat across the table. Those words, drifting in my head, froze me in place. The absence pulled at my chest, a relentless tug that hollowed out any sense of normalcy. A couple passed by, wrapped in their own bubble of warmth and whispers, reminding me of us, of her silent company filling every quiet moment. I inhaled deeply, trying to wrap myself in the familiar aroma of roasted coffee beans and baked goods, hoping to conjure her presence. But all that filled my lungs was a void colder than the night air. I turned, willing my feet to move, to take me anywhere else, but each step felt leaden with memories. Continuing down the cobblestone path, my mind spiraled back to the bookstore 3 doors down. It was where we'd weep between shelves, losing hours debating our favorite endings. Inside, under the soft amber lights, I could almost hear her voice insisting on the merits of tragic stories, how they mirrored real life better than any happy ending ever could. Yet, what once were conversations now echoed like fragments of unfinished thoughts hovering in the air. I pressed on, each landmark taunting me with what once was our bench by the fountain, the tiny gallery where she'd point out abstract pieces, her interpretations more colorful than the art itself. Everything felt eerily tangible yet slipped through my grasp like sand. Finally, I found myself stopping at the river's edge, the moon casting a silvery path over the rippling water. We'd claimed this spot as ours, a silent promise etched in the way we'd stand side by side, absorbing the peace that seemed to elude us everywhere else. But now, my reflection was the only one staring back, the weight of her absence a palpable presence at my side. I shivered against the night, the chill settling deep, and it dawned on me that walking these paths alone would never bring back the warmth they once held. Yet, leaving them behind felt impossible, a betrayal to the moments that stood as testaments to our life together. The door to the apartment clicked shut behind me with a finality that felt like the closing of a chapter. Stillness clung to the air, thick and suffocating, as we gathered in the dimly lit living room, an unspoken agreement that this was the place, the time, to confront the ghost we all carried. My heart was pounding, each beat like a drum demanding attention. Their faces looked strange to me now, ghostly remnants of the friends who'd once filled this room with laughter. Now, shadows flickered across their eyes, haunted by guilt and memories of a night that none of us could forget. Dropping into the frayed armchair, I couldn't look at them immediately. My gaze fixed on the worn carpet beneath my feet as I swallowed the tight ball of emotion lodged in my throat. The silence felt electric, vibrating between us, thick with words behind clenched teeth. "Emma," I finally said, her name hanging in the air like a plea, a curse, a memory. I could barely keep my voice steady. She deserved better than all of us. Miranda was the first to look away, her fingers worrying the sleeve of her sweater. We never thought it would end like this," she whispered, her voice cracking the silence like a brittle shell. A bitter laugh escaped me, unbidden, rough-edged and raw. "You didn't think at all. None of us did." The words tumbled out, gaining momentum as I spoke them. Each accusation held its own weight, settling heavily between us. "You wanted to have fun. At her expense. And now?" The room rippled with the unspoken truth, each of us drowning in our own guilt. Jared leaned forward, elbows on his knees, an unreadable emotion twisting his expression. "We should have stopped it. When things got out of hand." But we didn't. My voice was almost a whisper now, my anger cooled into a simmering grief. And now there's nothing left but to live with what we've done, with what we've lost. I couldn't hold back the storm of my heart any longer. Their faces blurred through my tears as I unleashed months of pain, my voice an unending echo of why. Why did it have to be her? Why did it have to happen this way? Our shared silence was a living thing, filling the spaces where words failed. No amount of meandering regret could change the past. Miranda's tears fell quietly, reminiscent of a gentle rain, as her hand reached out tentatively, a fragile olive branch across the chasm of our shared misdeeds. There was only this moment, this room, and our haunted, hopeful faces. The smallest nods passed between us, tentative but real. Maybe the door to understanding wouldn't be sealed forever. Perhaps amidst the ruins, we could find a way to forgive. As we sat, surrounded by memories and the dull ache of what had been, a fragile hope flickered to life. A place to start anew. The room feels so empty, so unbearably big without her. Shadows loom long and heavy, tracing memories across the walls, haunting me with flickers of moments lost. I placed the candle on the small table that she once insisted we buy because it reminded her of our Paris trip. just a simple wooden thing. But in memories, it towers like a monument. My fingers fumble for the lighter, hands unsteady. There's a slight tremble I can't quite suppress, feels like my body remembers even when my mind tries to forget. The soft click of the lighter echoes louder than it should in the silence. A small flame struggles to life, briefly fighting the cruel air before it steadies, perched like hope on the candle wick. I whisper into the night, words only for her, a promise carried by the faint wavering light. Emma, I hear myself say, her name catching in my throat like it's new again, every single time. I'll try to find a way. For you, and because of you. I wonder if she can hear me, if words like these can travel beyond walls and death. It's a comforting lie I allow myself to believe. The candle dances to an unheard song in the darkness. Shadows twist and leap, each one a different shade of a memory, Emma laughing, Emma crying, Emma gazing out at the horizon as if daring the world to shift beneath her and sweep her away. She always did have that wild spirit, the fire that refused to be tamed. I watch the flame, its glow gentle, yet defiant. A warmth blooms in my chest, slow and tentative. It's a hope I haven't felt in weeks, one that tells me the night won't completely consume me. I am here, she is gone, and nothing has ever felt so painfully real. But as the light plays against the walls, I realize that she wouldn't want me trapped in the shadow of remembering forever. Her life was one of vibrancy and courage. If there was anything she ever taught me, it was to face fear with the tenderness of an open heart. I lean back in my chair, allowing silence to fill the edges of the room. The night beyond the window is still, a canvas of possibilities. I know it won't be easy. We've been told grief is a journey, but I never anticipated the terrain. Yet, like the fragile light of the candle, there is a pathway forward, faint but present. Emma had a way of seeing beauty in the broken. Those fractures, she would say, tracing the scar on her knee with pride, they let the light in. And maybe, just maybe, this brokenness I feel now is letting in the light, too. With her memory as my guide, I hold tight to the warmth of that flickering flame. This is for Emma, for us. It's a step, only a step, but it is mine, and it is surreal in its courage and sorrow.